What's up, everyone? Ever heard a politician say a word, and you're just like, huh? Well, for a while now, at least one politician has been obsessed with the word tariffs. And no, I'm not talking about those things you might find at a five-star hotel. We're diving deep into tariffs today because, let's be real, they're everywhere. Specifically, we're talking about how Donald Trump wants to use them. He's been talking about tariffs since day one with his America First philosophy, and he even teased the idea of replacing income taxes with this one weird trick. Sound crazy? It kind of is. But before you sign up for a no-income tax utopia, we need to unpack this whole tariff thing. Are they the economic cure-all, or are they a recipe for more pain for us, the consumer? I'm here to break it down for you, nice and easy. Okay, so what even is a tariff? Think of it as a tax on imported goods. If a company in the U.S. wants to buy stuff from another country, the government slaps a fee on it when it crosses the border. Let's say a company, we'll call them World Electronics, Inc., wants to import smartphones from China. The U.S. government sets a 10% tariff on those phones. If they buy $100,000 worth of phones, they have to pay an extra $10,000 just to bring them into the country. Ouch. Now, here's the kicker. That extra $10,000 doesn't just disappear. World Electronics isn't just going to eat that cost. They'll probably pass it on to you as the consumer. So those affordable, sleek phones just got a bit more expensive. Another example, Johnson's Wine. They import wine from Australia, and now there's a 20% tariff. That means every dollar they spend on wine from down under is now $1.20. Guess who pays that difference? That's right, you, the wine drinker. Your $50 bottle of wine is now $60. Okay, so if tariffs can make everything more expensive, why would a government even bother? Well, there are two huge reasons. Reason number one, money. Tariffs are a tax. And like all taxes, they bring revenue to the government. The more the government charges on imported goods, the more money they have to spend on infrastructure, healthcare, Social Security, and of course, the fun stuff like tax reductions. This is where Trump talks about potentially replacing income taxes. His idea is, if we collect tons of revenue from tariffs, we might not need to take as much from our paychecks. It's a very attractive idea. I mean, who wouldn't want to see that? But there's more than just filling government coffers. Tariffs are also used to protect local industries. Let's say your local winery is struggling to compete with that Aussie wine. The government can impose that 20% tariff on the imported wine, and suddenly, local wine doesn't seem so expensive anymore, which gives them a chance to compete, which then creates jobs and creates more opportunities for American people. This is the America First part of Trump's plan. He wants to use tariffs to make American goods more appealing by making imports more expensive. It's a way of tipping the scale in favor of American business, which could be a good thing. Could. Now here's where things get interesting. Trump is suggesting massive tariffs, and even the idea of completely getting rid of income tax. But can we actually pull this off without screwing over the American consumer even more? Companies like Walmart, Black & Decker, and AutoZone are saying, whoa, not so fast, because those tariffs are going to mean higher prices for their customers. So who is actually going to pay for those higher prices? So there you have it. Tariffs explained. They're taxes on imported goods that can raise government revenue, protect local industries, but also often mean higher prices for you, the consumer. Trump's plan is ambitious, but it needs to be examined. Okay, let's get to it. So what's the deal with Trump's tariff plan? Well, first off, it's Donald Trump. So things are, let's say, conceptually planned. Now he's been throwing a lot of ideas around, but some of the things he's consistently mentioned include a blanket 10-20% tariff on all imported goods into the U.S. Think about it. That's everything from your phone to your favorite coffee. A hefty 60-100% tariff on Chinese goods. This is aimed at addressing what he sees as unfair trade practices, and even a threat of 25% tariffs on Canada and Mexico if they don't change their approach to immigration at the border. But that's not all. Remember my video on the BRICS nations and their attempt to create an alternative to the U.S. dollar? Well, Trump's also mentioned slapping a 100% tariff on those BRICS nations if they try to use their BRICS pay system to end dollar dominance. Essentially, Trump wants to use tariffs as a massive negotiating weapon. The idea is, if imports are super expensive, people will buy less. This would hurt international manufacturers and hopefully force countries to change their policies. It's a classic, make it so expensive no one wants it strategy. But Trump also sees tariffs as a way to make bank. He even suggested using the revenue from tariffs to eliminate income taxes for all Americans. Sounds amazing, right? But is it realistic? That's where things get interesting. Let's look at some numbers. So far this fiscal year in the U.S., the government has made about $629 billion in revenue, but it's spent about $1.25 trillion. Yikes. Now, most of the government's cash comes from things like income tax, Social Security, and corporate taxes. Tariffs? They make up just 2.23% of government income. Now, to get tariffs to cover income taxes, you'd need to increase that tariff revenue by 22 times. That seems like a tall order, and it is. But that's not even the biggest problem. The real problem is the scale of the tax base. The latest data shows that Americans reported almost $15 trillion in personal income and paid $2.2 trillion in income taxes, which, on average, is around 14.9%. In 2021, total imports were $3.4 trillion, but only $2.8 trillion of that was from physical goods that were subjected to tariffs. Those tariffs only brought in $80 billion, which is only an average of 2.9% on imports. So to generate the $2.2 trillion in income taxes with import tariffs, you'd need a tariff of around 78.5% on all imports. Even using last year's figures, where we made roughly $2.2 trillion income tax revenue and goods imported totaled about $3.1 trillion, you still need a 71% tariff on everything. But here's the kicker. If we slapped a 70% tariff on everything, what do you think is going to happen to imports? They're going to plummet? And as import volume drops, then the tax base drops. Even if you tax more per dollar, there would be less overall to tax. Think of it like this. If you make cupcakes cost 70 times more, people just won't buy cupcakes, will they? Studies have proven that import demand is very elastic, meaning that people and businesses are very sensitive to the price and will change their behavior if the price changes. In fact, for every 1% increase in prices through tariffs, sometimes the quantity of imports can decrease by even more than 1%. And that's not even taking into consideration that people and businesses will actively evade tariffs. This might include misclassifying goods, underreporting values, rerouting imports, or even just smuggling. And the bottom line is this. Tariffs aren't fun for us. They make prices go up, so we all pay a little bit more for everything. So, while Trump's tariff plan might sound great on a surface level, it's not that simple. It's likely to hurt both our wallets and our trading relationships with other countries. Now, you might hear politicians like Trump talking about America first and slapping tariffs on other countries to make sure we don't get taken advantage of. Sounds good, right? Well, hold on a sec, because the reality of tariffs is a lot more complicated than that. Let's break down what tariffs actually do. Basically, a tariff is a tax on imported goods. Now, the idea is that by making foreign products more expensive, we're incentivizing people to buy American-made goods. Makes sense on the surface, but here's the kicker. It doesn't always play out that way. Let's use wine as an example. Imagine a great bottle of Australian wine sells for $50, while a similar American wine costs $55. Now let's say a 20% tariff gets slapped on that Aussie wine. Bam! It's now $60 a bottle. You'd think American wine companies would be celebrating selling all their bottles for $55? Nope. What they actually do is raise their prices. They think, hey, everyone's paying more for wine anyway, and boom, American wine now costs $59 a bottle. Now, no matter which wine you buy, you, the consumer, are paying more. That's the dirty little secret of tariffs. Ultimately, we all end up footing the bill. This is why plans to replace income taxes with tariffs are getting so much heat. We got to remember, 98% of federal income taxes are paid by the top 50% of earners. The bottom 50%, they only contribute about 2%. So it might seem like a great idea to ditch income tax, but tariffs hit everyone with higher costs for everything. That cheap bread, those everyday essentials, their prices go up. And sure, maybe someone making $15K a week can absorb higher prices, but that same increase hits someone earning $500 a week very hard. If your cost of groceries goes from $350 to $400 a week when you only make $500, that's a massive problem. This is where Warren Buffett's advice on economics comes in. You can't just do one thing. You have to ask, and then what? When we increase tariffs, we have to ask, and then what? The reality is, whether it's tariffs or income taxes, it's the average American, you and me, who bears the financial burden. It's a hidden cost, and a lot of people don't realize it. And speaking of hidden costs, let's talk about corporate taxes. The Trump administration already slashed corporate tax rates from 35% to 21%, and they're talking about lowering it even further to 15% for companies manufacturing here at home. Now there's an argument that low corporate taxes fuel growth, but many people are wondering, is this really the best way to balance tax policy? Are these tax cuts truly helping us, the everyday American? So that's the big picture. Tariffs aren't as simple as some politicians would have you believe. They often end up hurting the very people they're supposed to help. Now, I really want to know what you think. Do you think Trump's tariff plan is a good idea? Are there parts of it that make good sense? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. And while you're down there, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel with notifications on so you don't miss the next video. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video. Peace.